Well, thank you very much. Today we are joined by Sarah Damani. So thank you for joining us, Sarah. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thank you, Suzy. How are you?
I am good. I am good. Thank you very much. So before we get too deep, take a couple of moments. Tell us about you.
Okay, so Sarah Damani, mum to two boys, aged 5 and 8, Zane and Reese. I'm business owner with Alchemy, with you guys. I'm a retained firefighter. I'm a wife, friend, sister, daughter. Yeah, that's a little bit about me.
I'm tired already just thinking about all those things. I really am. And yeah, this is our first episode, so it was only right that we had this conversation because you're our first virtual assistant franchisee at Alchemy, and it's been quite a journey, I think it is safe to say. So it was only right that we have this conversation for our first episode, another first. So we are talking about time, and we're talking about for me, it's the promise of, oh, hi, my cat's coming to say hi.
Hi.
I'm just gonna let that happen. So we're talking about the concept of this podcast is 365 days later. So let's jump in our time machine. Take us back. Where were you a year ago? Practically, emotionally, spiritually, physically, where were you? What was Sarah Damani 365 days ago?
So it's absolutely crazy to think back a year because so much has happened in such a short space of time. So this time last year, I had just spoken to my manager and let her know about my plans to start my own business. The conversation pretty much went, well, I'm a business advisor, and if I didn't want to start my own business, then there might be something wrong there. And as expected, she was completely supportive, and the whole team were, which was amazing. So I was just on the verge of launching my Alchemy Virtual Assistance Hub, which was January 2020. I was so excited, but most of all, really nervous. I wasn't Suzy. Would people like me? Would they trust me to support their business? Although I was used to networking, I had always been representing someone else's business. So now going in representing my own business, it would become quite personal. And it's almost like, it's your own baby, isn't it? But yeah. I spent a lot of time talking through things with you, talking about my fears and my aspirations. And it really was the great unknown for both of us. But I was confident that you and Paul had done your due diligence in the conclusive application process. And to an extent, I just borrowed your belief and ran with it.
Oh, I love that. I love that concept of borrowing belief. And I think you've touched on some really important points there, because it is, in business, it is so personal. When it is your business and you are having to put yourself out there, it can feel incredibly vulnerable. And we don't like to put ourselves in that position as business owners. And I think that's an area of I think that's quite a real honest area of growth that a lot of people have. I know I do, and I continue to. So how do you get over those fears? Let's talk about the fears for a minute.
My biggest fear really was this sort of going out with confidence for a brand new business where I hadn't got a proven track record of supporting clients. I didn't have my own stories to share about clients that I was working with. But like I said, it was just about borrowing your belief, following the processes, the proven processes that you had already put in place that had worked well for you, and just going with it and just doing it again and again, constantly sort of pushing yourself outside of that comfort zone into the adventure zone, as I know you like to call it.
Yes.
And there comes a point where you sort of look back, a couple of weeks have passed and you haven't been worried about going into a new client meeting. A month or so passes and you just think back to those fears that you had and you think, I don't get those same fears anymore when I go into a client meeting. I go into a client meeting now and I let go of the outcome, because I very much know that if it's the right client and we are the right virtual assistant for their business, then it will happen and it will work. And if it doesn't, then there's a reason for that. Everything happens for a reason.
Oh, I've got goosebumps you saying that. Because yeah, absolutely. I think consistency, as you've highlighted, is probably one of the most important things in business, in my opinion, but also that belief. And I think that stems from that's a self-belief, really, isn't it? Which is a tricky beast. And I think, you know, hands up, I'm an imposter syndrome sufferer. I think we all are to some degree. And I think having that belief in yourself, even though sometimes it does waver, I think that's incredibly important. And so if you could go back to this time last year, what would you tell yourself?
I think the key message that I have really learned, the most valuable lesson I've learned in this business so far, is that yes, I may not always know the answers, or I may not always know the exact way, the best way to support my clients, but I know that I'm passionate enough and it's important enough to me to find a way. Yeah. And if I can't, being just completely honest and upfront with the client and saying, actually, that isn't a task that we can support with. You'd be best off going with X, Y, Z, and giving them solutions. So rather than coming with problems, giving them solutions.
Oh, it's so important. And yeah, and I think to me, that's the greatest expression of integrity, which, you know, and those of you that know me, is probably the most important thing to me as a person, but as a business as well. As a business owner, I think integrity is non-negotiable. And again, it's belief, isn't it? You've got that unwavering belief that whatever situation presents itself, you'll adapt, you'll overcome, you'll do what you need to do. And I know you share my belief on this, of the lifelong learning, and I've done a lot of work on my mindset. When you're in a shitty situation and you're like, you're being, there's a lesson there, there's something to learn. So how is it a bad thing? And like anything, it's the consistent reminders of those things, isn't it? Oh, okay. So where are you now, Sarah? I mean, I know you're here talking to me on Zoom, but where are you now? What's the state of life for you right now?
Well, 11 months into the business, about to move into our own office space, which is one of those fancy garden offices that you see. Although, don't get too excited. It was a shed and we've just converted it and made it look real fancy. But we're getting matching furniture. In fact, that's all been delivered this morning from IKEA.
Oh my goodness. Oh, all about the matching. What have you gone for? What have you gone for?
We're just very plain and simple white desks, some of those posh sit stand stools, and those rise and fall desks as well. So we can do that modern thing where you stand and type.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I am going to be coming in and hanging out with you, but actually there's a lot that's to be said for standing up.
Apparently so. It's great for the posture.
Great for the posture and confidence as well. I think if you're making kind of sales calls, or I think it's the posture, but it's also the impact, the mind body link, isn't it? The impact that has on your, I'm so excited.
So what else have we done? So hit my first incentive, so senior hub manager, and I spent my bonus on a paddleboard, which has been absolutely amazing. Absolutely love paddleboarding. If you haven't done it, you really need to try it, because it's the perfect excuse to relax, head off up the river with a book, with some music, with some friends. It's just a great day to switch off from absolutely everything.
Oh, I mean, I've got a very vivid imagination, and I've got images of you on a paddleboard reading a book, like effortlessly swooshing off down the river.
You go up river. That's quite tough, and then you can just sail back down the river. That's when it's cool.
Oh, I love that. I have never paddleboarded, but I'm a total water baby. But my balance is terrible. So, but then that's part of the fun, right?
Yeah, that's the fun. I did try to do a headstand and fell in rather spectacularly. So it's all good. It was good. I left my day job. So that was something quite recent, which was amazing. Really amazing feeling to be able to let go of that and move on to focus solely on the business. And then I've got 2 amazing assistants that are working in the business with me, which just opens us up in terms of adding so much more variety to our skill set so that we can support more clients and increase the support that we give to our current clients by offering them extra services and such.
Amazing. So paddleboarding, building offices. Like I joked, but I am I'm inspired by how full your life is, and I'm going to just throw a little question in now about, because I know the term work-life balance gets thrown around quite a lot. You could argue it's a bit of a myth. There is no such perfect thing, but how do you strike balance?
Well, it is tough, but you do have to be strict with yourself. This year has obviously been a lot tougher than most, and I'll be completely honest, I've really suffered with having the kids at home schooling and having the job and starting my own business. All of that was really tough, but it's about making decisions and sticking to them and going with your gut and knowing when things are right. So I knew it was the right time to leave the day job because I knew that the business was starting to pick up. But it is just about being super organised as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think being very aware of your needs as well, and how to establish those boundaries and communicate those boundaries. And again, it's another constant thing, isn't it? You've got to do it consistently. And you're right. I think when you do wear all the hats, you've got to be super organized. You've got to be very structured and self-disciplined. And I know way back at the start of lockdown, we had a little spreadsheet for like what our son was doing, what we were learning that day, what we were going to do when we were work time. Like it was in like little 10-minute blocks. It was a bit ridiculous, but that helped me have sight of what was going on. It helped me feel a little bit in control in a bit of a unprecedented times. I'm sorry to drop that term in, but and the little things sometimes are the big things, aren't they? So we're going to jump forward a year. So indulge me, be bold, dream, share with us. Where are you? What is Sarah Damani gonna look like next year? What's your life going to be like? What's your business going to be like? What are your ambitions for the year ahead?
Well, the business has grown so much quicker than I think any of us thought possible. And with that has come along, the way I've taken on 2 assistants that are working with me in the hub at the moment. For me, we're not there quite yet. I'd really like to add another assistant into the team. I think that will come in the next couple of months as the business continues to grow. My hub hours, I'd like to add probably another 30% on top of what I'm currently doing. And I think, that's why there's a need for another assistant. We've got a fantastic team and we've got some amazing clients. And I'd just like to continue to build upon those, because quite recently we've taken the time to reflect upon our dream client and build up a really strong manifestation, really, if you like, of what that dream client looks like, who they are, what they do in their social life, what their family mix is like, where they live, what kind of business they run, and what their values are. And I think that's when you go into that level of detail, that really helps you to work out why the relationship is so successful, and you can then start to attract those types of clients.
So many people, businesses, old and new, I think there's a lot of people that don't have that depth and breadth of understanding or awareness of that dream client thing, particularly startups. In my experience, I know when I first started my business, I was like, I will work with anyone, I can help anyone. And yes, that's true.
Right.
But when it comes down to the fulfillment and the success and the enjoyment of those relationships and the way that they're working, I think that dream client piece is quite crucial. It's the most important.
It's quite powerful, I think.
Yeah.
Because it makes you, yes, you can work with anyone and we can help anyone, essentially, but that doesn't mean we should, and it doesn't mean that that's good for us to do that. So when we can identify exactly who our dream client is and the reasons why that makes it successful, then our posture upon sort of, you know, other relationships with other clients that aren't going to work, it gives you posture, and it gives you confidence to know that that's not the right direction to head in for whatever reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's integrity, isn't it? And I love your use of the word posture there. I love that, because it's how you present yourself, it's how you interact with everybody. And I think ultimately, without being too crude, nobody starts a business to work with people that they are not fired up by. They're not passionate about their business or the way that they do things. They're not aligned. You know, most of us, without offending anyone, when you're in a corporate environment and you're in the rat race, or you're in the 9 to 5, you don't have that expression, do you? You have to adapt, and you get on with everybody, and you slot into a defined team. What's the word I'm looking for? Well, it's dynamic, I guess, isn't
Dynamic,
it?
yeah.
You sit in that situation, and when you remove yourself and you create your own business, the choice is all yours. And I think it's important that we all remember that and express that. So okay, so anything more? I mean, no, you're not going to be like, I know you said about taking some time off, but you're not like retiring on a yacht in the Bahamas or anything next year?
Well, that would be the year after.
The year after,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I won't retire because I can work anywhere. Yeah. Although I'm not sure about the schools. I've heard bad things about the schools in the Bahamas, so you know.
Well, I mean, maybe you could just reassess the list of hot, exotic, lovely places to retire to. But do you know what? I was talking to somebody about this the other day, though. I'm going to put it out there. I don't think I'm ever going to retire. Like, I genuinely can't think of anything worse. Is that bad?
Well, you don't have to retire, but the great thing about having your own business is you get to choose the pace. You get to choose your hard. You get to choose, you know, your work-life balance. If you want a 4-day weekend, you have a 4-day weekend. Like, whoever decided on a 2-day weekend, they weren't self-employed, were they?
I think that I can see that in a quote on this episode, because you're absolutely right. And I work a 4-day week. I strive to work a 4-day week, but I think I mean, you know me, Sarah, I'm always on anyway. And to me, that's not a problem, because I love my business and I'm so passionate about what I do. And for me, that 4-day week allows me the thinking time, the creativity time. I'll do some writing, I'll create some content or some training materials, or that, to me, like, I'm like, yeah, I work a 4-day week, but that is thinking time. And if I'm going to meet your honesty, I think it took me a long time to realize that downtime and that thinking time was just as important, if not more important, than the day-to-day hustle and grind, if you like. I hate that term.
I think absolutely. Business owners, especially in my experience from previously being a business advisor for the Growth Hub, the amount of business owners that I would meet that were just so busy paddling, you know, trying to keep afloat, and they never took the time, apart from coming on our workshops, really, they never took that time to actually think and plan and dream and goal set to work on their business. And that is absolutely vital, because if you don't know where you want to be in 5 years' time, then you're already there, and you're never going to improve the balance without sort of taking that time to work on your business rather than always in your business.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And why do you think we do that? I mean, I'm guilty of that. I've been guilty of that. But why do you think that is? I'll share a snippet of my thoughts. I think there's a lot of self-put pressure. There's always stuff to do. But I do also think, reflecting on my own experiences, that there's an element of this vulnerability again, isn't there? You've got to get real with yourself, and you've got to hold yourself accountable. And there's not someone that you're reporting to that's asking you to do this or defining those goals. I think there's an element of procrastination that's born out of that vulnerability.
I think that also, and it is your business. You are your business, and it's being able to let go, to invite other people into your business, to work with you, to trust that they're going to take it, as much passion and as much due diligence in the work that they're delivering on behalf of you, essentially. So that is a big thing. I have seen that a lot, where people just aren't comfortable with inviting people in to work in their business with them.
Yeah, I again, my own experience, I've been guilty of that. I think the one of the biggest mistakes I made in my business was trying to do everything myself. I'm a control freak. Show me a business owner that isn't. I'm a perfectionist, self-confessed, recovering. But I think, I'm going to misquote this, and I'll put it right in the show notes. But was it Steve Jobs or someone that said about kind of hiring people that are better than you?
Better than you, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, yes, absolutely. But again, it's that fear and vulnerability, isn't it? Because when you meet someone that's, whether they're an employee or somebody you're outsourcing, a supplier, whoever they are, you're going to them because you want them to be the expert and you want them to be better than you because they're bringing that to your business. But then we kind of create all these reasons as to why we shouldn't do it, don't we? Like, oh, a little bit. And I think it's that vulnerability and that kind of, I'm a bit scared now. And I think fear, and do you know what? We need to talk to somebody who knows this a lot better than I do, but I think fear and excitement's pretty much the same thing. And I for those of you that are listening, not watching, I'm doing a weird thing with my hand right now because I like to see them as like a seesaw. So you have the fear, you have the excitement, and they just kind of, you're on a seesaw with those. And sometimes the fear will be so big, but then also sometimes the excitement, and it's just another beautiful balance, isn't it? Anyway, there I go off on my tangent. So we've zipped back. We've learned about where you were a year ago. We've indulged a little bit in the year ahead, and I'd really like to know what's going to be on the front page this time next year. Give me a headline, and there are no rules here. There are no rules. It could be Sarah Damani wins the Nobel Peace Prize. It could be something not Sarah Damani. It could be anything. If I'm picking up a paper this time next year, what would be like, just go with this instinctively, what would be on that front cover?
I think we just uncovered it, actually. I didn't have an answer for this before this call. But I think we just uncovered it because it's something that I think is absolutely fundamental and has been proven successful in other countries around the world. I've read articles on this and they've implemented this, and it's been really, really successful in terms of improving efficiency of staff and effectiveness of workforce. And I think that a year from now, 4-day working week will be the new norm.
Oh, I mean, I'm all for that. And I think you're right. 4-day week, but you're right. It has been proven. And I know in my own experience now adopting a 4-day working week, how much more productive I am. I think I do think, and I wholeheartedly welcome the shift from kind of hours and outputs. We're focused on, let's be at our desks working from 8 till 6, and actually we should be judging what the output of that is as opposed to the length of time. That's more important to me.
Particularly this year has just been so different to anything any of us have ever experienced before in our lifetimes, and it's proven that people can work from home, that teams can still continue to be effective, that work still gets done, but we're giving people a lot more flexibility because we've had to.
Yeah.
But actually it hasn't really hindered the pace that work is done, and I think it's been quite enlightening in that respect.
I would completely agree, and although I don't want to diminish or belittle how awful this year has been, I think you've always got to look for a silver lining. I'm a glass overfilling kind of girl anyway. But I think that's been one of the empowering and enlightening, as you say, things about this year, that it's the new normal, the home working experiment, and I think we've all been forced to go back to basics a little bit, and like really real basics, and again, we're all such complex creatures, aren't we? And we all have our own needs, we all have our own working styles and our own preferences, and I know when I first started working from home that I was just so enlightened and empowered by that, because I could pick my working patterns. I could work with myself instead of against it. And, you know, if I'm tired, I'm going to have a little 20-minute power nap, and then I'm going to crack on, and I'm going to be far more productive and happy for having the choice to be able to do that. So, so are we going to go as far to say remote virtual world 4-day week maximum?
Yeah.
Something like
let's go for it. Let's go for it.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you so much. It's been brilliant talking to you and jumping around in time and getting to know a little bit more about how you tick. So thank you. For our listeners, viewers, how can we get in touch with you?
Well, I would invite anyone that's listening, that's enjoyed this podcast, to touch base with us on LinkedIn, you know, follow our social channels, and let's get together for a virtual coffee.
Love a virtual coffee. Sarah Damani, you have been excellent. Thank you so much. And we'll catch up with you. I mean, do you want to come back in a year's time? We'll do this again.
Let's do it.
Yeah, great. Thank you.